Let's take a look at number 22. And instructions are to graph it. Well, let's do it the easy way first. Let's plug it into our calculator. Now the key is when you're plugging anything in your calculator and it's in fraction form and you have more than a single x, single number, or single I in top or bottom, numerator, denominator, you have to put parentheses around top and or bottom. So let's come over here. We'll press our y equals, press clear. Now the top part has x minus 3, so I put parentheses around it. So beginning parentheses, x minus 3, closing parentheses, divided by, and then beginning parentheses, and then we have x squared plus x minus 12, close parentheses, and graph. And which one does that match? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of hard to tell here by the graph. I mean, I know based upon what I can see up here which one it is, but so how do I tell you which one to look at? It? I suppose you could zoom in. Actually, now that I look a little closer, see how the A goes up above the x-axis a little bit more than it should? So it looks like D as in David would be your answer. So 22D. Yep, and that checks. Okay, now let's talk about how the way I said that you could tell which one it was. So let's graph this by hand. Okay. We got f of x is equal to x minus 3 over x squared plus x minus 12. Now, first thing we're finding is the vertical asymptote. Now, your steps in finding the vertical asymptote is you factor the top and or bottom. In this one, we don't have to factor the top, but we can factor the bottom. Bottom factors as x plus 4 times x minus 3, using the PSD method. And step 2, cancel. Well, I see how they both have an x minus 3, so those are going to cancel. So we got f of x is equal to 1 over x plus 4. And in step 3, set your denominator equal to 0 and solve, and you get x is equal to negative 4. This is how I could see it, which one was graphed based upon the asymptote. Okay, horizontal asymptote. Okay, degree of the top is 1, degree of the bottom is 2. When your degree of the bottom is larger, then your horizontal asymptote is y is equal to 0. Slant asymptote. Well, if you're to have a slant asymptote, your degree of the top must be exactly 1 larger than the bottom. Degree of the top is 1, degree of the bottom is 2, so there is none. Now I'm going to find something additional here, something called a domain. And the reason I'm finding it in this particular problem versus that one, the previous one I did, 21, I didn't find it, is because these canceled away. Now your domain, what you do is you set your denominator equal to 0 and solve it. So I set x squared plus x minus 12 equal to 0. And we've already said this factors as x plus 4 times x minus 3. Then you set each factor equal to 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. And we get x is equal to negative 4, and x is equal to positive 3. Now these are the values that cause the denominator to be 0. So we can't have these. So x cannot equal negative 4, and x cannot equal 3. We'll come back to that. Okay. Now our x-intercept. When you're finding the x-intercept and y-intercept, it should be based upon, after the, I should say simplified form, after you've done your canceling. So we're going to be taking a look at f of x is equal to 1 over x plus 4. Well, if I find an x-intercept, I plug 0 into the other variable. The other variable is y. So I get 0 over 1 over x plus 4. And remember, whenever we have a 0 on this side and we have a fraction, we can set top part equal to 0. But when I do that, I don't have any x's left. So there is no x-intercept. So none. Now that looks like, well, we didn't find anything. Well, yeah, we did. That actually tells us something. For our y-intercept, we'll plug 0 into the other variable. Remember, f of x is y, so we'll plug 0 in for x. So I've got 0 plus 4 there, which gives us 1/4. Okay, so let's see what we got. Vertical asymptote is a -4. It's an invisible line. Your graph will skim at some point. Y is equal to 0 is our horizontal asymptote. And that actually happens to correspond with our x-axis. Again, it'll skim it at some point. There is no slant asymptote. Domain we'll come back to. And x-intercept there is none. Y-intercept is 1/4. Which should be like somewhere right here. Well, if it intercepts there, then it's probably skimming here. That I can draw real well. And I'd actually plot a few more points to get a truer picture of it. And if this is up here, then for your average rational function, you're not going to have one right here. Now, when it gets more bizarre than this, you will. So I know without plotting points that this is going to be down here. Okay, now let's go back to our domain. We said -4, and we got a vertical asymptote of -4, so obviously the graph doesn't exist there. But at 3, over here at 3, we have a hole in our graph, so it doesn't exist there. Now that isn't really reflected in any of these graphs over here, so actually none of them are correct. But anyway, that's how you can do it by hand.